Good afternoon, everyone. Please welcome to the stage. Insert funny name here.
Thank you all for coming out this evening. Tonight, I've got a set about Sonic Forces. It's gonna be great. Y'all gonna love it.
April Fools! Yeah, you really thought I would come on here and have positive things to say about Sonic Forces? Of course not. I went into it with high hopes, expecting to prove this game's reputation wrong, but I was not prepared for what was set in front of me. But before I get into the game itself, to truly set the stage and background for this mess, we must go back to 2017. In the early 2010s, Sonic was really struggling as a franchise. Sales were down, the games were not good, and Sega started to focus on their mobile ventures more and more. Sonic was slowly becoming more and more hated as the years passed. It seemed like Sega didn't care anymore and was just pushing any slop to their loyal customers. This came to a tipping point during the Sonic Boom era. The infamous Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric game was panned by critics for its awful gameplay and numerous glitches. If Sega wanted to resuscitate Sonic's reputation, they needed a game that truly knocked it out of the park. And luckily, in mid-2017, they did just that with Sonic Mania. Sonic Mania was a wonderful game crafted out of love and passion with the help of a few fan game developers. This was a great game that revitalized Sonic's overall reputation at the time. It was exactly what Sega needed. So what does Sega do to follow up this masterpiece? Release one of the most poorly designed, downright brain-dead video games ever made. Now that may seem a little harsh, but in the coming minutes I will prove to you that you should stay away from this game at all costs. So where shall we start? I guess from the beginning, because that's where the first issues crop up.
Well, you know what they say. Oh, I hate the gameplay. Well, I hate the gameplay. I'm Aiden.
So when we first begin our journey, we are thrust into the first stage where you are given control of Sonic for the first time. And no joke, this first stage is a perfect charcuterie board of what makes me feel so strongly about this game. The first thing to point out is Sonic's controls. They just don't feel right to me at all. Generations had tolerable controls that felt natural and made that game enjoyable. I don't know what they did in this game to make them worse, but they sure did. The momentum feels so off. The way that Sonic abruptly stops and runs to a full speed makes controlling Sonic a little handful. And this wouldn't be so bad if this was like a normal Sonic game where you could just speed through everything, but nope! This brings me to my second point, the precise platforming segments. These stupid little 20-second excursions ruin the pace of this game so hard. You could be speeding around and then have to abruptly stop to wait for a moving platform to come back. Which again, other Sonic games have done this well in the past, but the way that Sonic controls makes precise platforming near impossible. Sonic slips and slides like everything is an ice level. Combine that with stiff midair controls and a weak jump, and you have yourself a recipe for a terrible time. And it does not improve with the addition of my third point, the level designs. Oh my god, these levels feel like they have absolutely no effort put into them at all. Number 1. They're absurdly short, which caught me off guard multiple times when the end of a stage happens so abruptly. Number 2. They're way too easy. You can burst through these stages so fast because once you get past the platforming parts, most of this game is flat ground with occasional inclines and slopes. And 3, they're boring as all get out. As I said before, most of this game is flat ground, but they don't put anything there like enemies or monitors. It's just a cluster of cliffs and piles of platforms that shouldn't move. That's just the problems that the first level lets on. There will be plenty more as this game goes on, so let's move past the first level so we can be introduced to the main conflict.
Last time I was introduced to conflict, I had to sleep on the couch. It's a tough crowd tonight, eh?
Dr. Eggman wants to take over the world. Never heard that one before. This time, however, he is aided by his creation Infinite, who has the power of the Phantom Ruby. And I guess Eggman finally made a good plan for once, because for possibly the first time in the series, Sonic is captured and Eggman actually takes over the world. Wow, okay, that must make the plot pretty interesting then, where the rest of Sonic's crew has to fight back against Robotnik to save him? Yeah, we'll get to that later. But the concept of Eggman winning is actually really interesting. Sadly, this game does not have the runtime to fully fledge out a concept like this. Following Robotnik's capture of Sonic and world domination, we are introduced to one of the core elements of this game's story, the Avatar.
Why did the Avatar cross the road? He didn't, because he was too scared to be hit by a car.
You suck!
The Avatar's role in this story feels so dumb. They're a stupid coward who is always afraid of the bosses until Sonic magically gives them the power to be not scared anymore. Is this a Disney movie? They have no real reason to be there other than having a character that you can customize yourself. However, one thing I will say is, I had way too much fun with this avatar creator. They hand you some of the silliest, stupidest, ugly items you could ever imagine. You can either try with your avatar and make something halfway decent, or just make the most horrendous atrocities this earth has ever seen. I was dead laughing at some of the horrible combinations that we created. Besides the funny factor, it's just your basic character creator with no real options other than the clothes, species, and hair colors. No moving around elements like the Nintendo Mii Maker, but I digress. The avatar's arc is poorly written and would most likely be better without it. And what's another character we could have done without? Classic Sonic. He is downright useless in this plot. He has no reason to be here. He basically just appears there as a Sonic replacement while Sonic is in jail, which is a moot point for 90% of this game. And all the classic Sonic stages kind of suck. He at least controls a little better than the modern characters, which makes platforming actually possible now, but the levels are so bare and boring, they don't do anything interesting. Most are just holding right simulators with an occasional enemy. I'm assuming this was a ploy to get the Sonic Generations crowd back on board. Sonic Generations, an actually good game, has real reasoning for classic Sonic to be there. This game, he's just thrown in for funsies. I hate his inclusions similarly to the Avatar, because his relevance to the story is non-existent. The stages are slightly better, but that's like putting a cherry on a pile of manure and acting like it's been massively improved. After a few levels, we get to take control of Sonic again, where he breaks containment and goes back to helping his team take down Eggman. Why, Sega? Why? Sonic is captured for quite literally 3 levels. It makes this story element basically meaningless. Oh, Sonic is gone. Oh wait, he's back now. Yay. I just wish he was captured for at least a third of the game. You set him free in the 5th level. This game has 30 in total. That's another point I want to cover. The length.
Someone said the length was too short, and I was like, that's what she said.
Boo! You suck!
This game in totality is only around 3 hours, and that's being generous. With less deaths, you can beat this way faster. For $40 when this game launched, this is absolutely abysmal for the amount of content. I mean, it's Sonic Forces. The levels already suck, so playing more of them would be even more painful, but for Sega to release a main entry in the Sonic series with only a single sitting worth of content, this story warrants a game that's maybe 10 to 15 hours, but I guess Sega really did not care about this game. And speaking of the story, the rest of it is really nothing to write home about. Infinite and Eggman get defeated by Sonic's crew, woohoo. It feels so anticlimactic as they don't get the proper screen time for a real progression to occur. Infinite doesn't feel like a real threat, and Eggman is just there to fulfill the quota. And on the topic of no real threats, the bosses in this game are ridiculous. Half boil down to just boosting as fast as possible and jumping occasionally, and the other half are the most tedious, stupidly complicated, unfun gameplay ever from a Sonic game. Especially this one fight with Infinite that took 10 minutes to finish because the attacks are so horrendously choreographed and almost unavoidable in some cases. So yeah, from the level design, to the bosses, to the story, to the core gameplay, this game is fundamentally borked. It really sucks that they failed to make a compelling package with such a good premise. If they removed classic Sonic and improved the Avatar and Infinite's character arcs, the story might have been bearable. If the 3D stages weren't so linear and didn't constantly switch to 2D, the stages would have been better. And if they gave the proper runtime to such a massive story like this, maybe it could have been executed better. But what is Sega if not a company who takes constant L's?
Get off the stage! Get off of the stage!
Okay, if you're Sonic forcing me to!
Oh God, that's terrible.
But there is some hope for a partial redemption. A DLC pack starring Shadow that shows the events leading up to the beginning of Sonic Forces. In current day, Shadow has a way better reputation than its main story Sonic counterparts. There's new stages and new cutscene to fill out the story gaps. If we snap back to reality, there are 3 stages that are pretty much the same as levels from the base game. The themes and design feel the exact same, and the new cutscenes just show Infinite is just a little wussy pie. It's 17 minutes long.
Sega, how do you keep getting away with this?
Boo, you suck!